Well, all right. Well, welcome once more. So, as you guys already mentioned and can see from the screen, we are there is more, often always more we can say for the first angel, but we are going to take a look at the second angel. So, I'd like to invite you guys again. I think some of you, maybe all of you, are already there. Revelation 14, verse 8. We'll start with the reading of that verse, and then we're gonna go ahead and check out a few quotes, we'll dissect it a little bit, and then before we wrap up. Is there someone who already has it that it's a short one? But
Says,
yes.
and there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
All right, and that is it. That is the second angel's message. So it follows the first angel. The first angel, again, had the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, every nation, kindred, tongue, and people. And so some of the things that it emphasized was the fear of the Lord, giving God glory, the hour of his judgment, and of course, worship. What were big items for the first angel. The first angel is also a direct response to what was going on in Revelation chapter 13. We have a dragon, we have a sea beast, we have a land beast, and they're just causing all sorts of chaos, deception, man, forcing, there's death decrees. And so worship is a big thing that is corrupted in Revelation 13. So angel number one flies in and it has something to say about worship. Now angel number two is coming by and sort of just picking up the baton. It's not necessarily saying something brand new, but it's going to heighten compliments, if you will, as part of what the first angel is saying, especially as it relates to Babylon. Now, I have a few quotes, not that this is where I want to spend the most time on, but I think it'll be beneficial. Here's one, and this is, so some of these are going to go ahead and talk about this relationship between the first angel and the second angel, as well as speak of the time when these were first being proclaimed. So is that readable from where you guys are? I know it shows a little more back. Is there someone that would like to read it from where you are?
In Revelation 14, the first angel is followed by a second proclaiming, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation 14:8. The term Babylon is derived from Babel, or Babel, and signifies confusion. It is employed in Scripture to designate the various forms of false or apostate religion. In Revelation 17, Babylon is represented as a woman, a figure which is used in the Bible as a symbol of the church, a virtuous woman representing a pure church, a vile woman, and apostate church. Revelation 14:8.
All right, so and that comes from a book, Great Controversy. Thank you so much for reading, by the way, Teresa. So we have a few things. We'll talk about some of this later, just to see how this matches with what the Bible says, with some of the Greek as well. When it comes to defining the term Babel, Babylon is derived from Babel. It signifies confusion. So we're going to take a look at that as well. So I want to talk a little bit about this part, and I kind of already did when we referenced chapter 13. It is employed in Scripture to designate the various forms of false or apostate religion. So it's interesting, this is a comment that is being made for a particular, in a particular time. But as we consider chapter 13 and its transition to 14, isn't that what we see, a false worship? Who is being worshipped, by the way? You guys recall, right, in chapter 13? All right, the beast. Who else? There were two entities that were mentioned early on. And the dragon, yes. So that would be a false worship, no? Because, after all, the first angel told us, why is a reason that God is worthy of our worship? Something that separates him from the dragon. He is the creator, and the first angel has something to say, thank you, as well. And so it is a false worship. They're not worshiping a creator, but rather the creature. And then they would fall into apostate religion in chapter 13 of Revelation. That's happened in the Old Testament before, right? or maybe even in our own, history, whether it's in Europe or in America. Can you guys think of, say again?
No, I was saying apostate churches are really abundant in America now.
They are.
It's all over.
You can say that. And it has happened in the Bible. Can you guys think of any occurrence where Israel, God's people, fell into apostasy? Can you guys recall? In the desert? Okay. Which, okay, I understood. Moses, desert, captive Babylon. There's a lot of good answers, but I can process so much at a time. So I'm sure there were more than one right answer. So those are two good ones.
And women were beaten for Tammuz.
That's another one.
And
Ezekiel, right? And wherever that is. So yeah, no, but you're right though. That's a good reference. Yeah, where the women are weeping for Tammuz. That's another period of time where they were in apostasy. And now these are God's people too. So anybody is at risk. That can happen to anyone at any time. Just because they were in Israel didn't make them exempt from it. Just because someone is in the true church today doesn't mean they are exempt from it, right? So we're not going to talk about the woman comparison too much. Chapter 12, you guys, we've done that. The woman clothed in natural light versus, we haven't gotten to chapter 17 yet, but the one that has another choice of adorning herself. But I want to continue on this with another quote here on this worship part, because we're going to sort of open the door, but we're not going to unpack everything today. But if someone has, I know we're, again, a little further from the screen, but if anybody has the eyesight to see it, is there someone that would like to read that one?
false doctrines for Sabbath, immortality.
Oh, on this side. Yeah. 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 Sorry. Yes.
The prophet says, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils. Revelation 18 and 2. This is the same message that was given by the second angel. Babylon is fallen because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation 14. What is that wine? Of false doctrines? She has given to the world a false Sabbath instead of a Sabbath of the fourth commandment, and has repeated the falsehood that Satan first told Eve in Eden, the natural immortality of the soul. Many kindred errors she has spread far and wide, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men.
All right, so we're going to explore this a little bit more, and indeed we already have. When we were talking about, in chapter 12, in chapter 13, and chapter 14, they're all related. We were talking about the mark of the beast, right? In chapter 13 of Revelation. We've talked about the seal of God in chapter 7 of Revelation and in chapter 14 of Revelation. So we see that there is counterfeits, and it's not just about a day. I know some people, maybe some of you have heard it, it's just a day. What does it matter, right? But you can see it that way, and then I can see that line of thought, or you can view it as loyalty. It's when you think of it as merely a day, it's one thing, but when you think of it as it's what the Creator asked for, it hits different, like it's received different. It means something different because it's not just a day, right? So we saw that comparison, but there is an institution. We're going to see more how Babylon applies to more than one entity. There's the ancient Babylon and the modern Babylon, and that is not just geographic anymore, localized geographic. But there is a wine. So we've mentioned it here. Yes, you guys can see some of the things on the right as it mentioned down here as well. We're going to explore this more because it is something that Babylon is using. In fact, it says in the second angel's message that she made how many nations? All nations drunk with the wine of her fornication, right? So we're going to have to take a look at that. And we can compare it. This one's going to be, the fall Sabbath should be a lot easier by now because we've already worked with the mark of the beast and the seal of God. Some of the others will look as we advance. Thoughts or comments, because the thing is that, we're going to as we move forward, these things will be revisited. Yes. Oh, 1, 2.
When you say the baptism by sprinkling, so instead of them immersing themselves as Jesus was immersed, do they just take the little water and sprinkle like
Yes.
when they pushed it in their baby, they just sprinkle water on the baby because you
Uh
can't
huh.
immerse the baby in the water.
Yeah. So there's a reason why that was started, but yeah, that's one of them, which we'll explore later on, maybe next week more. But yeah, yeah. Yes.
Oh man, put me in the water. I want to be totally washed.
Uh,
Don't sprinkle me because I'm still sinning here.
yeah. No, kind of like Peter, right? His response, not just. Yeah. I know. Did I see a second hand as well? Yes.
It says, and where it says, drunk with the wine of her fornication. Who thinks that drinking wine is okay, even with that?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
There are.
I mean, the connotation is loud and clear that it's not a good thing to be
No.
drunk.
No.
To be
Yeah.
drunk, you know. So when people tell you it's okay to drink wine,
Sure.
it is, it doesn't do you anything. It's not,
Yeah. But one usually leads to the other. No. Yeah.
confusion.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
We're gonna talk about that more too. Yes, Pastor Brian.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to give the other side of that, and this is not like I don't encourage drinking at all, and even moderately. But the other side of that argument, somebody's argument to that would be that the Bible defines drunkenness as sin, not moderate or social drinking. That doesn't mean it never paints it in a good light, but there is just to be like honest and integrity in the conversation. Drunkenness is portrayed as sin in the Bible, right? But a lot of people's argument to that is that every drinking is not drunkenness.
I've heard this before many times, actually, online, in person. I've heard this. It's come to my attention a lot.
It's drunkenness that's portrayed as sin in the Bible. So once again, like I completely discourage people from, even dabbling the least with it, because you're nobody, because you don't know where you can draw a line, right? You never know, and when you cross over that line, but you also have to be honest. I feel like you just have to be honest in that depiction. That's part of what this is getting to, right? Is that when you dabble with something,
Yeah.
you cross
Yeah.
over into.
And I suppose that's why the counsel is given. Do not look at it when it stirs itself aright. Do not even look. So, but no, it's very common. Say again?
Noah didn't know anything about
Oh, Noah.
wine, but he made juice and then it fermented and became wine. So that's why he
ended up
cursed
Ham.
He cursed Ham because he saw him in his drunkenness, but he didn't.
There's-
He cursed Ham's.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if he didn't know he was.
That.
Nobody knew about wine back then.
Oh no, but the effects of it, I would say, yeah, the effects. Yeah. So the effect that it could, yeah. I believe so.
When you think about when Noah stepped out, the world that Noah stepped out into post flood, it was a difficult situation.
Yeah, and there are some others. We have Lot, for example, as well, right? Who was deceived. I mean, he didn't even want to. He would not have done what he did had it not been for that, right? So,
The result is never good. The Bible doesn't portray this idea of like,
Yeah.
you go out, drink socially, and you have a good turnout, right? So I'm just trying to be,
Sure.
Yeah, I just feel like.
All right.
I just feel like, for honesty's sake, when you have a conversation with somebody, it's like
It comes up.
I gotta be very clear on what the Bible what the Bible prohibits completely versus what it discourages, because there is a line.
I mean, what the thing about drunkenness is you lose all inhibitions. You have
Okay.
no feelings,
And
you're just boom. Everything that comes into mind, you do.
So yeah, so you made me think of one thing, but comment, and then I'll, if I don't.
And I mean, we are supposed to not even touch it. I mean, when I say touch it, I mean don't even take the first sip, because nobody, I don't know what your tolerance level is, and you're altering what God, your state of mind.
Yeah.
So whether you're falling over drunk,
Yeah.
or or you're walking the straight line, with just however many, it just should not, touch it.
Yes, good point. So
It
on that,
alters, it's mind altering.
yes. So now that you mentioned, well, now that everyone mentioned what they did sequentially, whoever finds it, can somebody look up and read Romans chapter 7, verse 25? And then, this has a lot to do with the first angel and the second angel, I would say, because it's a call to true worship, right? The first angel and the second angel is just continuing that same one. You got it, 725.
You got it, sister? Go ahead.
Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then I myself in my mind am a slave to God's law, but in my sinful nature a slave to the law of sin.
All right, so with the mind, what is it that he's striving for with God's help? Yes, and the law of God. Right now, as mentioned, we know that for some people it's a different amount, right? But eventually, you lose your state of being sober. And when you lose that, it is not easy at all times to serve the law of God with the mind. I wonder, now this is not a literal wine that a literal Babylon is passing on to the people in the last days. We'll talk about that more as it unravels. But I can say that the people that are living in the end time are not able to use their minds to serve the Lord because there's an effect as if they were. They're not literally drunk, but there's something that's taken place, something that they were drinking from, something else that they were absorbing, taking in that doesn't allow them to reason the same and maybe see with the same clarity the plain truths. But that's why the first angel swoops in with a loud voice. There is a chance. There is still time. There is still a possibility, but it's not easy if you're drunk. I've had Bible studies, I think, with people that have been smoking and drinking, and I'll tell you, it is not the same when they're sober. It doesn't mean it's a lost cause. I don't exit and say, I don't do this. Look around. Okay, I see what you're doing. I'll come back next week. Get it together. That's something I don't do. I pray. I understand things are different. I let God work. I do my part, even if it's a shorter amount of time. They're willing, if they're willing. If they're willing and they do. And sometimes I'm surprised. Now, when they're sober, I know it's different, but there's a chance. There's a chance. Comments? Yes.
I just have a question at the last part of the comment up there.
Okay. Teacher for Doctrines and Commandments, amen?
Yeah, the natural immorality of the soul.
Oh, okay.
Many kindred errors she has spread far and wide, teaching for doctrines of the commandments of the men. That's in reference to the apostate church.
Yeah, you could say that in just a state of what Babylon has done. Yeah. And we'll define Babylon more and more as we continue. So as of now, I can just say, while it's great to reference ancient Babylon, but we'll see that there's a modern application. Yes?
I just wanted to bring this up. Because
Sure.
when you asked earlier about what Israel had ever done in the past to show that they had fallen. Well, if you go to Kings 1 and Kings 2, there's so many times that it would take an hour to name all the times that Israel's fallen and
Yeah.
sin and worshipped other idols.
Yeah.
Even King Solomon.
Yeah. So, and this was a case, we already mentioned Noah, who precedes Israel, right? I mean, even Adam and Eve in their flawless state. So it's like, they were all a people of God, even if the aforementioned are not, or the mentioned now are not Israelites. But it can happen to, just like in ancient times, in today's world as well. It already has. Scanning for the comments. If not, we'll go to our final quote. So this is going to be speaking on a little bit of the history. There we go. Now I caught it. Is there someone, the words are a little bigger maybe there, that could read this one? Sure.
When the churches spurned the counsel of God by rejecting the Advent message, the Lord rejected them. The first angel was followed by the second proclaiming, Babylon is fallen, is fallen. contaminate all the nations drunk with the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Revelation 14:8. This message was understood by Adventists to be an announcement of the moral fall of the churches in consequence of their rejection of the first message. The proclamation, Babylon is fallen, was given in the summer of 1844, and as a result, about 50,000 withdrew from these churches.
All right, so I know many of us are familiar as we've studied the 1840s in our own time together. You guys know the name William Miller, right? What was he doing with his time with the aid of Joshua Himes?
Who was that you just mentioned? I don't
Oh,
know none of that, so can you please
William Miller?
explain that to me?
Sure, and people can feel free to jump in as well. He was a Baptist farmer. He was a farmer, and then he was a Baptist, and he was a reluctant preacher at first. I'm not going to say the entire history, but he would. It took time, but he would listen. He discovered, and he loved to study the book of Daniel, like many of us. And he ran upon Daniel 8:14 unto 2300 days, and then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. Now, with that text, he had some understanding of it. He believed that the sanctuary meant the earth, and he thought that the cleansing meant the second coming. He got excited. This was his impression. He was doing, now he didn't arrive at October 22, 1844, but I believe he did himself arrive at 1843, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Snow, Samuel Snow, is it his name? It was the one that pinpointed the date a little bit more. So with that, they were preaching to the churches that Jesus is coming. There was a judgment message as well. Now, was this message, it was both. Was it widely received? Was it always received? It was. By everyone? Not by everyone. Yes, people, not by everyone. Yes, a lot of people.
Ellen White was even rejected from her own church.
Yes, the Methodist Church.
They didn't want to embrace the second coming of Christ.
And so what did they have to do as a result as choosing to embrace this message? Yeah, yes, and exit the Methodist Church at the time, right? And it's not just, I said Methodist Church, but because it's accurate to that family, but there are other people from other denominations hearing, and they would have to make a similar choice, right? So it was widely received, but a lot of the churches were not accepting this message. Some of the churches and some of the leadership would be angered as well, right? You can fill in the blank for, I'm sure they had. Correct, no such thing yet, not formally, not corporately. The name wasn't there. The group was not there.
So this is when they started the church, the Adventist church.
That would be later. Yes. It would lead to
On a name for 19 years. They wanted to avoid trying to
organize.
form as an institution because they believed they would become part of Babylon because basically, there's flaws within every institution.
Yeah.
Every church. And ours isn't
Perfect either.
different or infallible.
Yeah.
But that was their big concern. So they believed Jesus Christ was coming very soon, and they didn't want to kind of like institutionalize and become part
Yeah.
of a corrupted system like a lot of other churches. So they were very reluctant to take on a name for many years.
Yeah.
Another key thing that he came up with is, so why did they think Jesus was going to come during the time? Is because he spent a lot of time studying the Bible, and he kind of figured out the time prophecy of the 2,300 years was right during their time, right around 1844.
Yes.
So this is one of the things we covered when we were studying the book of Daniel.
Uh-huh.
We're studying the book of Daniel in Daniel chapter 8, and it talks about the 2,300 days and nights, the 2,300 day prophecy, which prophetic time is years. So back when we studied the book of Daniel, we looked at that and saw that the starting point for that was the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, and we knew exactly when that was, and that would take you to the day 1844. They were still initially for 1843.
Because it's 0 years.
Because
You got it?
when you transfer from the year BC to AD, there's no year zero, right? So And it was a relevant, significant event that occurred that's referring to the heavenly ministry of Jesus Christ going from the holy to the most holy place. But they misinterpreted that as referring to the cleansing of the sanctuary as referring to the end of the earth.
Okay.
So they thought Jesus Christ is coming
This time in
1844. Specifically, the specific date that they thought was October 22nd, because October 22nd, when they looked at the strict
Gregorian
Jewish calendar, the Karaite Jews, that's the day that the Day of Atonement would have fell on.
Okay.
So they wind up having a great disappointment, expecting Christ to return on that day, because they translated the cleansing of the sanctuary to mean Christ was coming to earth, and was going to be the end of the world, versus Christ's heavenly ministry.
Yeah.
Changing phase.
And so when this brings us to the summer,
Great disappointment.
yes, that right.
But it was like a great disappointment. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like, oh, okay, well, it didn't come and we're gonna try. No,
It was
people
truly
were
great.
like,
A lot of people had sold
Everything.
farms, they were ready.
Preparing for
and
Yeah.
a lot of people started
They
rejecting
waited
them
until
too.
midnight.
Yeah.
In front of them.
Yes. So there was, yes, it was,
Sweet in their mouth and bitter in their belly.
and that's Revelation 10, verses 8 through 11. So we have, there were some that were rejecting the first angel as much as, was understood at the time. And, well, the result of that would be, to some, being those who rejected they would fall under this part. The Babylon is fallen. Like they're rejecting the first angel. So in part, this was what was happening. And this is just one season before what they anticipated, summertime. So one season before what they anticipated to be the second coming. And it was an urgent thing. And those who rejected the first angel, those who rejected this message, well, the second wouldn't make, they wouldn't make any progress with it if they wouldn't accept all of that. And so this is another thing too, why it's important, when we work with people in Bible studies and sharing the gospel, it's not the easiest thing to accept the mark of the beast when they haven't gone through the first angel. If they don't have the experience of the gospel, even if they were to somehow catch it intellectually, that's a possibility, but it may not mean much to them if they don't have that experience. It is important to go in sequence. It says here, again, in consequence of the rejection of the first message, okay, the proclamation, Babylon is fallen, was given. So one came after the other. They weren't getting ahead of themselves. And that's a little temptation that does hit today. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves in topics. So this happens sequentially. But there's a little bit more. Any other thoughts about this? Or, all right, we're going to continue forward then. We'll probably revisit it. All right. We'll probably see something that, in the following screens that'll remind us of the things to come. One leads to the other. So here is the second angel's message again. We've read it before. It says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she had made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So there's a number of things we're not going to get to all of this today, and not necessarily in the order. We'll get to the fallen part next week. But we'll talk a little bit about what Babylon is. But here's a few things that we can get from the message. Like if we were to break it apart, okay, it's talking about, first it's following the first angel, right? It's telling us there's a great city, or rather it refers to it as a great city. I'd rather reword it that way. It tells us about a great city, right? And what else? I know it's a very short verse, but what else can we draw out of it if we were to cut it up in pieces? What else is it talking about?
Well, when we first read this, especially in the context of coming after the first angel's message, where we were talking about the judgment.
Yes.
To me, this is kind of like one of the results of the outcomes of the judgment is that Babylon has been determined to be guilty of all the things
All right.
we're reading in
Okay.
the second angel's message, and also to kind of give us hope that all the things that they have done to God's people in the past, God has not forgotten about it. He's going to
All right.
take action to rectify it now that the judgment is concluded.
Okay.
And to take hope and to make sure you're not on the wrong side.
That's right. Yeah. That's good. Yes. Thank you for sharing. Any thoughts or reactions to that or follow up? So yeah, it is one of the things there. We see that it is the enemy. Well, judgment is passed. The verdict is given, or the sentence rather, right? And there's a variety of other things. So we see that we can consider a few things, right? It does something with the world, right? What is Babylon doing to planet Earth? Deceiving them, right? Yes. With lies, right? Corruption. So that's one of the things that it is doing. Now, we did talk, Ed did mention a reality that Babylon is going to get hit with. But before that, is Babylon successful with what it does? Or are they bad at what they do? Yes?
She made all nations. She made
Oof.
them. I mean, in other words,
Good statistics? Good stats, yeah. It's good at what it does?
yes, yes.
Okay.
She's an enforcer.
All right. She's an enforcer.
An enforcer.
That's right, because look at that last word. That's, Babylon's got an illicit relationship with somebody, and that's the enforcer.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that now that you say that way, it's almost as if the second angel is the enforcer of the first as well. Because so the dragon sends out one enforcer, God sends another. Kind of like one-upping. So that's interesting. That's fascinating to think about. So there's a number of things here. We're not going to today. I know we talked about it some, but we're going to get into it a little bit further as we go. But what is the wine? What does it mean to have like this state of immorality or fornication? So these are some of the things that we're going to be exploring throughout the study of the second angel. So to advance a little bit more, we have a first mention in the book of Revelation. It took us 14 chapters. Did you guys know that? Up until now, in the book of Revelation. Up until now, Babylon had not been mentioned. We've seen the sea beast, right? We've seen the dragon, and some other things, but the word Babylon in the book of Revelation doesn't appear until now. So now it will be followed. We will come across this word again several times, but this is the first mention in Revelation. So, yes.
In my cross-reference for Babylon is fallen,
Uh-huh.
I see it in the Old Testament,
Isaiah.
both Jeremiah and Isaiah.
Yeah.
Is that talking about the original Babylon, the country? I mean, the kingdom?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that a kind of,
Prophecy
yes.
or something. So we'll talk. Yeah, I had that verse and I removed it today, so I can spend more time on it next week. But there is a very present Babylon in the days of Isaiah. Well, actually, to be honest, they didn't achieve the power that they had in Isaiah's day. This would take about more than 100 years for them to get that status that they would. But yes, yes to both in a way, because Isaiah lived a little before some of the things that would happen. Say again? It's also mentioned again? During the time of the apostles. That phrase? Okay, yeah.
Referring to a power that existed during their time.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get to one. Yeah, one of the apostles did. We'll get to that one. Yeah, we'll if we have time, we'll make it to that one. I did not delete that screen. I deleted that one because I just wanted to spend more time on it. Yes, comment here.
Yeah, by the time you get to Revelation, obviously you're dealing with spiritual Babylon, because Babylon's no longer on the scene, but also it becomes very clear, because remember the book of Revelation was not meant to be understood until the last days, and trying to compare it with Daniel. So it becomes very clear when you look back to Daniel, things, the language that's being used, such as, drunk with the wine, right? Babylon has fallen, right? When did Babylon fall? In Daniel chapter 3, chapter 5. Chapter 5?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct, yes.
The writing on the wall.
Yes.
Right? When they go and they get the golden vessels the golden vessels that were taken out of Israel, right? And then parting, and there's like the
Yeah.
imagery alluding to one of the most blasphemous acts done in a you know, this mixture of worship
Yeah.
and idolatry, right? So it's very deep when you get when you think about how this wording in a book that's not supposed to be understood, that cannot be understood, and is not supposed to be understood until the last days, in combination with another prophetic book that has history and prophecy, and you look at that history and you realize all of those elements are wrapped up in this concept. Yeah, it's blasphemy, it's idolatry mixed with religion, you know, mixed with God saying, "Hear and no further," the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
I just saw something really interesting too, and you mentioned Daniel chapter 5, and I went there. And what I read was, "And you lifted yourself up against the Lord of heaven, they have brought the vessels of his house before you, and you and your lords and your wives and your concubines have drunk wine from them." This was something that, these were religious symbols.
They were holy relics.
They were holy,
Yeah.
And then when you think about the wine of Babylon, so it's Satan that is misusing everything that God has created for our good.
It's good. Yeah.
And I think one other point, kind of going back to what we were talking about just a moment ago, also, yeah, these are holy relics brought out of the sanctuary. While there was not out like, you know, I was trying to say earlier that, you know, the consumption of alcohol or anything fermented was
Yeah.
always discouraged, but to the priests, it was prohibited. You understand? So these relics that they're drinking wine out of was
It's a defilement.
yeah, it's the defilement, right? It's the
It was,
mixture
yes.
it's the mixture of the holy with the profane.
Yeah.
With the profane. And that's what winds up happening.
And in
Yeah.
most cases, you can see
The Father and the Son.
in the son's day, it was the physical wine in the cups, the sacred cups, and in this day, it is the doctrine of
It's
men.
spiritual.
Yes,
Yeah.
in the
So
wines.
we'll get more to the doctrine. That's coming up soon. But this is good. This is good. And there are a lot of parallels from Daniel chapter 5 to Revelation 14. So no, this is good because we're gonna revisit this as well, and it'll continue to just, as we mentioned, build one with the next. But I want to get this part of the first mention and the cities. So we have Babylon is a city, right? Is there someone who could read from Hebrews 12, 22, and 23? And then maybe another from the text here in Revelation 17, 18. And in 17, 18. Yeah, chapter 12, verse 22 and 23.
Hey, can I just say this real quick?
Sure.
Just alluding real quick to Daniel, to the Daniel 5 thing.
Yes.
Also, when they showed up in Babylon, you know, the whole thing that they were trying to do with getting some of the most influential people from these different regions into what essentially was the University of Babylon was to indoctrinate them, right? Give them false doctrine, direct them to spiritual wine, in order to use them as ambassadors to then push this on their people.
Yeah.
Hence, this is what ties in the physical and the spiritual in regards to the wine. With the physical one, hence Daniel's refusal to not just eat the food that's contaminated, but to participate in any shape with the physical wine